Hey folks, this is Ted Cantu coming at you, and I've got some really great news here about what is really happening with your marketing. And if you're in insurance, you're doing annuities, you're doing any kind of really high profile marketing under the umbrella of a major insurance carrier, it's tough because, let's face it, there's a lot of things that you can do when you're in a company like that. There's a lot of things you can't do, and you're being watched all the time. Here's the number one thing that really aggravates me about these big companies that don't really understand what's happening in the marketplace. When you get a website with one of these big companies, you typically get a web page under, it could be like MetLife.com, it could be Ameriprise.com. You only get one page. That means that you're up there with 500,000 other agents under one website, all competing for the same business in any given area. We got a saying for that out on the East Coast. We call it crabs in a bucket. It's not a good analogy, but what happens is everyone's clamoring for the same piece of the pie. It is really troublesome. When you're all fighting on the same IP address on a website, guess what happens? Not much. In fact, it's very tough to stay competitive and to also get that business. I suggest doing something a little different with that. I would look into doing some viral media, kind of like what you're seeing here in this demonstration. It can be actually an audio message, it can be a web video, and it can also be a non-descriptive website that lives on a different server, preferably your own, and it has to be coded in such a way that it is separate from your main parent site. Best thing about it, you can actually drive business to your email or a blog or some sort of a capture device. What I mean by that is like some sort of a form that collects email addresses, phone numbers, and information. Aweber is a really great service to use, and that is something you might want to put into your web pages. But again, that has to live separately from your main parent site. If you want to get really technical about it, you can actually build multiple sites and have multiple sites target a certain area. Let's say Oakland County, for example. You could have one in Southfield. You could have one that services Ferndale. You can do one for Royal Oak. You can do one for Detroit. These are all separate sites dealing with annuities that are non-descriptive, that's not going to really set off any red flags, and will keep you under the radar. And hopefully, if you write good content or you hire someone who's a copywriter, such as myself, this stuff is actually going to attract new business for you. And that is what you have to do. Very important that you understand that concept. When I tell a lot of insurance investors, any kind of annuity people, I give this message, and they're often very intrigued, but also sort of disheartened at the fact that their main company just doesn't actually see what needs to be done to attract business. And a lot of other companies do this too. A lot of real estate companies, Remax, the list goes on. They just don't understand the importance of putting all their agents on separate sites and actually give them, the luxury of being separated with different IP addresses and that sort of thing. This does get technical, and you will have to figure out what is it you really want from your business. And number two, what kind of keywords that people are physically typing in to find your business. And that is something that we talk about quite a bit on these other clips that I have. And you might have seen some of the things I've done for the dental industry. I've actually have mentioned there's databases out there with collected keywords that people physically type in every month. Search engines keep track of all that stuff. What we like to do is use the same criteria that people are typing in to find businesses like yours, and then from that we actually create our web pages, blogs, media, things that are going to be popping up on search engines, on the searches for Yahoo, Google, and Bing as people type them in. Very important that you come up with very specific keywords that people type in and not come up with your own. So there's a lot to it. If you're going to make your own site, I wouldn't suggest getting a template, like a do-it-yourself type template from a vendor, because there's a lot of stuff that's missing. You're going to want to find and hire somebody who can actually create a page from scratch that is coded properly, and there's a lot of ins and outs that has to happen to make that page pop up. we've done some frameworks, some different sites for different industries that actually popped up on search engines in about 2 days. Now, it depends what industry you're in because everything moves differently. Even towns move differently. For example, we had a really important dental client, and there was a lot of competition in the city of Southfield. It did take some time to get that site to rank properly. Once it did some fantastic things. You know, it got really great rankings, and they've actually held their positions for months on end. And typically, how do we work? What we do is, I would basically come in and I would create a system for you, and you pick out the towns you want, you pick out the kind of keywords, the kind of services that you want to promote. And we create a website based on that, and those pages get launched and published, and within, I would say, between 2 weeks, sometimes as little as 4 days, our records too, they will pop up on page 1 for Yahoo, Google, and Bing. There's other things that we can do too with social media, which is pretty interesting. And if you've done some reading on our sites, we've got some really great case studies. I was able to pull in about 197 leads for investors in about 9 hours. We did that through social media. That's leads in real time. And when I say leads, I mean fax numbers, phone numbers, B2B contacts, that sort of thing. I've done this also too for dentists and for finding dental gold, buyers and sellers. And I've done that for jewelry stores. If you got any questions at all, I will answer a modest 2 questions because the phones are busy here. So think about what you want to say and give us a call here directly at 248-631-9211, and I will answer your question for you. And you can also look for us on the web. I'm at tedcantu.com. OneSEOMichigan.com is another one. We have quite a few different links out there and quite a few different Facebook pages too, so we can actually answer all of your inquiries. We're based out of Northville and Wixom area, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, and have a great selling day.